Hello, welcome to the Virtual Ninja Show. My name is Heike and I will be your host. Before we get started today, I have a call for action for you. If you have ideas for upcoming episodes, please put them in the comments. You can use the comments on YouTube, you can use the comments in our tech community, but let us know what wishes you have for our new season that's coming next year. So, and with that, today it's about Defender for IoT, and I have Vishakha with me. And please, Vishakha, introduce yourself.
Thanks for having me, Heike. And I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy to be talking about Defender for IoT today. I work as a customer experience engineer on the Defender for IoT product side with Microsoft. And it's been an amazing journey. It's been a little bit over a year that I've been on this team. I get to solve unique problems for our OT, IoT customers that are using Defender for IoT. I work with them through their deployment journey, through their OT, IoT security journey, and I help them move towards success. And
That's
while
wonderful.
we do that, yes, it's been fun. But while we do that, we also encounter unique challenges that are very specific to each customer. And I bring that back into Microsoft, and we work as a team. It's not just me. We have a whole army of people. We have our product team. We have our research engineering, support engineers. We all work together to ensure that those challenges are alleviated and our product is enhanced.
So we will probably touch on some of those most common challenges that you hear from customers. So we hopefully get them out of the way and customers don't have to face them. Before we actually get into those, can we clarify a little bit that confusion for me and probably for customers as well? What are the different offerings that we have around OT, IoT? I know there's enterprise IoT. Right. Something is now also part of the E5 license. Then there's Defender for OT, Defender for IoT. Help me clarify what we have.
So just to make that a lot more easier, Defender for IoT is actually our OT offering.
Okay.
And enterprise IoT is for IoT devices that you can still scan from a customer's IT network. So anything like a printer, like a smart camera, will go under enterprise IoT. Just because, with Defender for IoT, which is for OT, we can still get that telemetry, but it's not going to be so enriched in value. Because when I start talking about Defender for IoT, I will tell you that it's not an active scanning agent. It's passive. And it's designed that way in order to ensure that our OT customers have their 5 nines uptime. Like we don't actively scan anything and we don't cause any kind of jamming to their network or any disturbance to the network.
Okay, but so Defender for IoT covers IoT and OT?
Defender for IoT covers OT, and it will do some IoT as well, but we are separating that into to enterprise IoT separately, which is going to be a part of E5, which is a part of E5 now.
Which is, yes. We announced this a couple of weeks ago, I think. Very exciting for many customers. Okay, so then what are the different, so you already mentioned cameras and such, so those are OT devices.
IoT devices. So customers who have MDE, right? Customers who have an active scanner for their endpoint devices will actually highly benefit from that and can get their IoT telemetry with that scanner as well. Okay. And if you have a license, then again, you have an advantage because with each license, you get 5 enterprise IoT.
Yeah. Yes. And the Defender for IoT is in the Azure portal still, right? So the console where customers then go and look at the devices and the alerts and everything, this is in the Azure portal?
So yes, you're right? But Defender for IoT has its own portal
Yes.
for managing each individual sensor at each individual site.
Mm-hmm.
But for managing all of these sensors together in one central place, it is Azure.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Do that in order to create uniformity and easy integration with our other products and third parties as well.
Perfect. So what are the different, like, how would you set it up? What are the different components? You already talked about active scanners and manual, and there's probably cloud-based products and on-prem. So can you clarify a little bit I wouldn't call it architecture, but the components that we are going to talk about?
Absolutely. So on our OT side, it's fairly simple. It's going to be an on-premise sensor, which is basically a hardware that our customers receive. And for most of our customers, this is how we want to recommend them so that they can be set up for success. We recommend that they order through Microsoft's hardware provider Aero, and the advantage for doing that is that they get the hardware already pre-configured. They have the ISO installed in it, and they have it ready to go, and they will be given their credentials, and all they have to do is provide us with their management IP and IPs that they would like to access their sensor from, and they are good to go, and we will provide them the credentials. So that takes care of the deployment portion. So as far as components are concerned, it's that hardware that has your sensor running. We have a couple hardware partners that we recommend you run our sensor on. And then for management, there is just one requirement, that you connect it to Azure.
So you have that box that you get, that piece of hardware, but then you also said, and we recommend some devices where you run the sensor on. So you have multiple sensors in a network and not just that box?
No, so our sensor is on premise and it's independent of the endpoint devices. We don't install anything on our endpoint devices on the OT side. So Defender for IoT, you do not install. It is agentless. We do not install anything on the endpoints. It is just going to be that box running on premise, because it has to be connected to the VLANs on premise. And
then this box will be the sensor, and it's looking for OT devices.
Absolutely. So the way it connects on premise is that it connects to a switch which receives all the OT traffic, and it gets a mirrored copy of the traffic.
Wow. And then how do you find threats there? Like, that's super interesting, right? So, I mean, you're not on the device.
Yeah.
You have that, sensor that's connecting, but like, how is that happens then in the cloud? Like, how is that sensor now giving that data to somewhere that is doing all the magic?
To answer your first question, actually, our sensor is the genius. It does most of the processing. It does most of the threat hunting on the sensor itself. So the sensor has AI engines that are running on it in order to actively hunt for threats. And at the same time, there is one thing I actually should have mentioned before. So when our sensor receives a mirrored copy of the traffic, what it does is it does what we call deep packet inspection on the traffic. Now, that is what we use in order for us to provide a more enhanced device inventory information. So we do device discovery based on that, but then we're also able to tell our customers what each devices are communicating on, like what their IP, MAC, firmware versions, CVEs are, that kind of information, and we provide that in a organized manner.
Wow.
So that is one thing we do. And then also another value add for our customers is that we're able to provide recommendations on their security posture. And give them reporting, alerts, recommendations on how they can handle alerts. And this is all AI and machine learning based. Our sensor has 5 AI engines running on it, which is what it uses to give you alert and threat intel information.
So what are some common threats targeting OT devices? Like, why do customers really need to think about it and get also the OT devices protected? Like, what are some common attacks here?
OT devices, like in general, is actually very, very prone to lateral movement. Like you can compromise the OT network itself, not just one device, and then you can actually move to the corporate network if it's not well segregated and it's not managed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so that's on the threat side. But even before we go there, right? Here's a challenge that we see with most our customers. Most of them are not even aware of what devices live in their OT, right? So the first thing is you need to know what you have, right? In
Discover.
order to
Yes.
be able to device discovery. There you go. We need to know what we have before we know what to protect and how to protect them, right? We need to know what we have and what language, say protocol they're speaking, and with who are they speaking, right? So common threats, let's say most commonly seen is we see rogue devices. And what do we call rogue devices? Devices that are not traditionally supposed to be in the OT network, but are.
I was wondering, you help your customers deploy. How many of your customers are surprised surprised in any way what suddenly shows up on their network?
I have seen, from my experience, I have seen situations where they said, oh, we have only 200, and then we scan and find 3,000 devices. And now we're like, what is all this noise?
So, but is it because they didn't consider these devices now as OT devices they should monitor, or is it really, they didn't even know these devices exist?
Sometimes it's that they didn't even know that these devices exist. And sometimes it could just be that they have allowed some sort of connection into their OT from their corporate IT.
Wow.
Or sometimes it's like segregation not done right back in the day, and we're finding out now.
Okay, I think I'm curious to see how it looks like now. And I know you brought a demo for us, so let's go into it.
Yes, absolutely. I'm happy to show what our sensor console looks like. At the end of the deployment, with the IP and with the credentials provided, we can land directly into the sensor console. And this is what the overview page will look like. I have 0 packets per second because this is a demo environment, but in a real live environment, this number is going to go up. You're going to see packets per second information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we can see the number of devices that the sensor is discovering currently in the environment and how many alerts we have at this time.
Mm-hmm.
Also, from the overview page, we see the connectivity type. By default, it's not going to be connected to cloud, but in my demo, I just like to keep it.
What does it mean, cloud connected versus different connectivity types?
Right. Okay, so by default, it's going to show up as locally managed in the connectivity type, which just means that it's not connected to any intranet. It's completely air gapped.
And then that means the packages and the alerts, they don't get automatically uploaded, but then someone needs to do that manually?
That connectivity type just means that currently, whether or not it is connected to Azure or not, some customers like it this way. They don't want their data before it is tuned, before it is sanitized, going over to the management portal of Azure. Mm-hmm. So they like it this way. And then there are a few steps to enable the connection to Azure, after which all the alert, inventory, device information, everything gets synced to Azure within a few minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Also have another question. You mentioned this a few times, the provided password. So who is providing the password, in what way, and can customers change it? Like
Absolutely. Changing password is the easiest thing. In fact, during my training, that's the first thing I learned. So you can change the password if you have an Azure, basically an Azure subscription. So it's fairly simple. It's also documented in our documentation. So You just need to go to site and sensor and recover my password, and you'll be asked for like a secret identifier, which you will get from your sensor's landing page.
Okay,
It's as
perfect.
simple as doing forgot password if
Thank you.
they want to change it. Okay, so on the overview page, we also get a quick snap view of the top 5 OT protocols that is most commonly seen on the OT network at this point. We can see BACnet on my demo environment and that BACnet NPDU, and also the top alerts based on severity. So I have a few critical alerts over here. We talked about device discovery. So there's 2 ways we show that to our customer. One is device map, which
It looks like a boat. Like the shape of a boat.
Yes, it does. And some boats are longer. Some actually look like a ship because they have like multiple layers. Yeah, so this is actually arranged in the Purdue model. Purdue model is the standard OT ICS arrangement framework in which the devices can be arranged. So we have process control down here, which will house all the customers' PLCs.
Wow, and you can see through the lines who is talking to whom?
Yes, you can see through the lines who's talking to whom. You can highlight these lines, they turn blue, and then you see which device is talking to who. So you can see there is something from process control going over to supervisory all the way up here. And as you keep zooming in, you see IPs max and what these devices are and how many alerts are associated with them. Okay, so now that we've looked at device map, I'm going to be moving over to device inventory, which is another place that we get value out of device discovery information. So in device inventory, we can see that all these devices are organized a little bit differently, but it's the same information. We can see the IP of the device, their last activity type, what the type of the device is, what their protocols is, most importantly, and then we can also tell their firmware, model, operating system, CVEs, etc.
I see some of the devices, there is no firmware information, no model information. So how is that related?
Sometimes we are not able to tell firmware information if we don't see the full packet. Sometimes it could be that, or it could be the location of the device in the network. It could probably be behind a router. We can't see MAC, then we can't see firmware, then we can't tell CVE, etc. But there is ways to mitigate that.
So, and then can you click on each of the device and then you have like a device page with further information, or is that the overview here? So what are the tasks that you can do from here?
Yeah, so clicking on any of the device here opens up this view for me. Now I can see what the vendor is, what the location of the device is, IP, MAC, etc., and what protocol it is talking. And clicking on view full details brings me to a more enhanced device page. Now you can see that it gives me more information, like it tells me the backplane of the device actually.
Wow.
It tells me what it looks like in the rack and how many interfaces it has.
So because that might be, I don't know, like a specific structure, like specific devices belonging to a network or to a can customers customize this a little bit basically and like group them, rename them, put them in a group or something?
Absolutely, they can do that. And the way to do that is by clicking on edit properties right here.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Now, once we click on edit properties, now some customers, they don't like their devices to be called by their IPs. They have a specific name, their own naming structure, right? So this is totally editable here. Then they can also add a description of what the device is, and then also the type. You can change it. As you can see, there are all these different types that support.
Thank you.
And then also change the Purdue level.
Thank you. So now I want to see what are some of the alerts that you get there and what you can do with the alerts.
Absolutely. So actually, we can jump into alerts from where we are, or we can navigate out and go into alerts. So if I click on alerts here from the device page itself, this is going to show me the alerts associated with this device itself.
Mm-hmm.
So as we can see that there is an unauthorized PLC program associated with this device. And clicking on this alert is going to, clicking on the alert is going to again open up an alert page, alert view for me, where it tells me the description, source device, and the destination device. So in our case, the device we're looking at is actually the destination, which is a PLC. So
Mm-hmm.
looks like an engineering workstation has tried to make unauthorized changes to this PLC device. Again, we can go to view full details like we did before, and that pulls up more detailed information about this alert. And you can see that it gives me more entity information, devices, their IPs, etc.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I see you can take action.
Yes, we can take action. So these are the remediation steps that we recommend based on what we see in terms of traffic. And if we do determine that this is actually normal behavior, we can choose to learn by toggling this button. What it will do is, again, like I mentioned, that our sensor is equipped with AI and machine learning. So our sensor's AI is actually going to learn to normalize this situation and not alert in the future.
Wow. Okay. So we talked at the very beginning, because I think this is for customers, I would assume pretty straightforward, right? So you have the map, you have the device inventory, you see the information. We looked at how you can group them, bring them into your own order to make it better sense for you. The alerts. What are some common questions that you get when you deploy that solution with your customers? Like some common questions for what do we do next? I mean, I see a lot of things, right? There's an event timeline. I see risk assessment, trends and statistics, lots of awesome additional context and content here. But what are some issues that you run into with customers or customers with that solution?
Some very common issues are basically around how do we manage multiple sites together in one place? And then how do we basically tune these alerts, right? Tune all the information. Like, is there a centralized location to maybe create like a blanket exclusion rule for all these alerts? Because this is just looking at one instance, right? This is just looking at one sensor, but we have customers who have like 50 of these or hundreds of these. And questions are around centrally managing them and saying that, okay, this specific alert, right? Say for example, unauthorized internet connectivity detected, or like port scan detected, or something. If it's coming from sensor XYZ, then how do I tackle them all together in one place?
Oh, and then how
Yeah.
would you do that?
So for that, we have our management portal, which currently lives on Azure.
Ah,
So
okay.
yes, on Azure, you see the same view, like you see all these alerts, you see device inventory, but you see it for all your sensors and you can filter it at sensor level.
Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. So last question, is it complicated, Vishakha, to set up permissions, like who is allowed to access this information, who is allowed to take action, who is like, what is required from that point of view?
So yes, we do offer that kind of granularity. We have it on the sensor locally as well. We have three access levels, and that access levels allow you to do different things. Some are apps completely read only. You are not able to make any kind of changes to the setting, but you can view all the information. And then there are different permission levels that go, up to the admin level. But then even on Azure, we have that level of granularity if you want specific people accessing only specific sensors versus a different group of people accessing a different group of sensors. We are able to offer that level of RBAC from Azure as well.
Yeah, I think it makes sense, right? Because there might be even like geographically distributed, and then you have a separate SOC team that is responsible for these devices, but not for the other ones. But then I would assume you still have someone who can access all of these information, so it comes together as on a corporate level or like company wide level.
Yes, that would be the owner of the subscription
Mm-hmm.
on Azure.
Yeah.
That person gets a holistic view and also has the ability to grant permissions to other people.
Good. I think we spent a lot of time, and I know I could talk and continue, but we have a rule here for the Ninja Show. We want to keep it short. So, wonderful. Again, thank you so much, Vishakha, for the presentation, for walking us through that experience. I learned a lot, and I hope my audience as well. So, see you soon, everyone. Bye.